Perfect way to start it because we're rolling now.
Oh,
Great
okay,
intro.
Touching my dick.
Yes.
Woo! All right.
SvennyBaby.
SvennyBaby.
Welcome,
What's going on?
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Let's just go down the line.
Yep.
Introduce yourselves. What you play.
My name is Victor, and I play the keyboard and I sing.
My name is Jonathan. I play bass and sing sometimes.
I'm Duddy Johnson, and I play guitar and sing and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm Felipe, and I play drums.
Felipe's under the weather today.
So I'll be doing his talking parts. Okay, give him the mic.
You gotta
Hi, I'm Felipe. Dicks. 1, 2. Dicks.
That was way better than what I was expecting. I'm glad you guys did that.
First impressions, then everything.
Pick it up. Sorry.
All right, the first question. What is SvennyBaby? How'd you come up with that name? What is that name?
Well, you see. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So
I'm just kidding. So the original members of the band, we all happen to be reading the same manga. So manga, those of you are not cool enough to know, it's Japanese comic books.
Very nice.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
It was a series called Black Cat, and the main character, he had a best friend named Sven, and if you look in like the first page or two of the very first volume, the main character surprises his best friend. He goes, "Oh, SvennyBaby, don't be that way." So like written in was like a little music note, even right next to it. So we're like,
wow,
that's
cool.
kind of cool. Let's roll with that.
That's
It's
awesome.
original. It sticks out.
Yeah.
It's and
Yeah.
That's dope.
yeah, we
Name
like
it-
it.
naming a band is hard.
Oh,
It can be
man.
really, really hard.
It's
And-
very hard.
We couldn't come up with anything better that didn't sound like foolish, like something like what's it called, noun, verb the noun or something like that. You know what I'm talking about, like run the cat, or like one of those like really weird names that.
Assault the
or-
Nation.
like
Yeah,
that.
like all
Yeah.
the
I
hardcore
always
bands
saw
are named that way.
I always saw the theme of a color in a month.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Blue October. Is that what
Blue
you're talking
Blue
about?
October, Blue October, Green October, Magenta
Red
October.
November.
That's
Blue
unique
December.
though. You guys all connect with it because you're reading the same manga or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me and Dustin were when we started. We were teenagers and we kept playing, but we weren't very good. It wasn't until like a few years ago that we started like getting a lot better. This current lineup has been together for about 3 years.
Oh, man.
Mhm.
Yes.
This
What
is
was
like the real lineup. So
This is the dream
yeah,
team.
This
the
is the
band
dream
didn't really
team.
start until this lineup.
that wasn't
Felipe, anything to say?
Yes.
Yes.
that wasn't too long ago. Like before we first played with you guys, y'all
Mhm.
had been together for like maybe a year then.
Yeah, that's about right. That gig at
Yes.
Yes.
Profit Bar. Yeah.
Yeah,
What
that was a
that?
great
How
gig.
How did y'all come together? You knew Duddy. Y'all would play.
But we don't usually come
Yes.
together. But
Yes.
Well, Victor and Felipe and I all went to UTA together, and we were in the same music fraternity. So we used to play. The three of us, Sans Duddy, used to play in this cover band that was really, really bad.
Yes.
But we liked playing together and jamming together. So
yeah, that's what we did.
when there were various vacancies in SvennyBaby, like Victor picked up the two of us. So
Yeah, it was wonderful. Like I was amazed that they wanted to play with us. Like me and Dustin were like, wow. Like we were beyond blessed.
That's
Like they're
dope.
amazing
So it's
musicians.
so it's like y'all y'all had your thing, and then y'all also had your thing. Y'all kind of just combined forces.
Yeah. Like when we played in a cover band, we noticed that we liked playing with each other more than with the band leader. So we decided to just jam together,
Yeah.
and it was wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Chris, if you're watching this, we still love you.
Yeah, we love you, Chris.
What's your band influences that y'all all agree on? Y'all are like, yes, or do y'all?
No, we all like different
No.
things.
Okay,
well, we like
so
different
that's-
things, but I think we definitely are influenced by like Passion Pit and
And the Beatles.
the
Oh, man.
the Killers, like stuff like that, like stuff that has a lot of really heavy synth presence. That's kind of a
Very nice.
dancier beat to it.
Yeah, and I love disco stuff.
Yeah.
What
That's
about
my jam.
Individually, we'll just go down the line. What's your staple band?
So I love Ben Folds. He's my boo. I love how hard he plays on the piano and like how technical he is. at the same time being a very sentimental songwriter. So that's my shit. And I love all the songwriter people like Elton John, Billy Joel, and James Taylor and all those motherfuckers. But I just related to them. But then there's also a side of me that loves synthesizers and stuff. And so I love Passion Pit. Like, they're just so heavy in synths and other wonderful things. And lately, it's like a lot of jazz stuff too. So I'm just all over the place. I just really like music.
That's awesome.
I grew up learning to play bass in like a gospel church, like black gospel, not like Southern Baptist gospel or anything like that. So I listened to like 90s gospel music, and if you haven't heard that, which you probably haven't, it's like really, really funky R&B that has really badass bass lines. So I learned to play bass from that, from listening to Stevie Wonder, and from listening to like the 2000s neo soul revival. It's like D'Angelo and Erykah Badu and all that. So those are my main influences, and I try to bring a little more of the soulful, like funky sounds into the rhythm section.
I don't have a great answer for this one. I guess if I took apart, like, maybe my songwriting, I could probably answer that part. Anytime I've written a song, I've kind of gotten my inspiration or cues from Jason Mraz. I think he's a really talented songwriter, so I like his wordplay. I mean, it's really good stuff. So as far as songwriting goes, I would say Jason Mraz, but my guitar works all over the place. Like, I learned how to play like acoustic coffee shop music first.
Right.
Then it was just kind of like experimental, like punk, and then like now I'm getting more techie or stuff. So I think my best answer for that, or as far as like guitar is concerned, is locals. So like anyone that I've jammed with, it's like there was a little bit where I had like, there's this really good musician named Richard Blackwell, and whenever I was jamming with him for a while, like I was obsessed with trying to learn jazz. So it's just kind of like, who am I jamming with? Who am I learning from? You know, so it's just like these guys. It's like who I'm jamming with are my influences, not necessarily what I'm listening to, if that makes sense.
That's pretty cool.
Definitely.
That's definitely one great way to like practice is jamming with others. If you're out there and you're struggling, jam with someone. You can definitely learn and pick up off them and feedback. It's just great.
It's a fast way to get better, for sure.
It really is.
So I listen almost exclusively to ska, punk, and hip hop. Specifically Streetlight Manifesto, George Watsky, and just a lot of like hardcore bands like 4 Year Strong and stuff. Drumming wise, I take a lot of influence from Chris Thatcher, who's the drummer for Streetlight Manifesto. Like classic, he's also classically trained, but then he like plays for a punk band, which is really cool. And then I also really like Robert Seawright, who plays for Snarky Puppy, they're amazing. And then I've been really getting into Benny Greb recently. Gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like it should be illegal to have that much talent in one person.
He's very good. The videos Matthew showed me, man, he's unbelievable.
Yeah, so he does, there's that Drumeo YouTube channel.
Yeah, man.
I've been watching all of his videos, just trying to like get like a little bit of his talent.
Just rub off. They have a lot of cool drummers out there.
Oh yeah.
That's
great.
You can learn any instrument now just
Mhm.
through YouTube.
Yeah.
I agree.
The interwebs.
How we'll go down the line again. How and when did you learn your instrument?
For me, I've always sang in choirs and stuff, but it's not until like recently that I'm like really trying to focus and find my voice, and I'm still working on it. I think as a singer, you're always going to be doing that. You're always trying to improve and find what is your voice and what is the authentic version of yourself when you're singing. As a keyboardist or pianist, I started when I was 16, and I there was a period after I graduated high school that I didn't have any music stuff, and I was like, I didn't think music was that important. I didn't really like it that much. I thought that until I didn't have it, and then like once it's gone, you're like, oh, it's a big part of my life. Like it fills a part of your soul. So I decided to play keyboard, and I started learning Beatles songs and video game music. And then like one day I took a music appreciation class just to like fill that void, and the teacher walked in on me playing with the piano and just like doodling on it, and he was just like, you know, if you really love music, you should become a music major. And I was like, I could be a music major? Me? Right. Be a musician? And then one thing led to another, and now I teach choir and like play with a bunch of amazing bands, and have had this wonderful family for a long time. So
That is awesome.
yeah, and like
surrounded by music, man.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
it's been wonderful. Like it also makes me realize how much I suck. So I'm just like, all right, I gotta practice. Yeah, it's been wonderful.
What age group do you teach, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I teach 5th and 6th grade,
Oh, very cool.
and I love it.
That's awesome.
Most of the time, they're really nice to me.
That's cool.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid, when I was like 7 or 8, I picked up violin because they had one of those days at school where they just bring in all the instruments, and they're like, hey, try these. And, you know, I picked up a violin, and I liked it, so I joined orchestra. And then around when I was 14, I got really into guitar. I got my mom to buy me a guitar, and I practiced all the time. And I was homeschooled, too, so, like, that's basically all I did all day. But, like, every band ever had, like, 3 guitar players and no bass player, right? So
Guitars everywhere, man.
yeah, exactly. So, and I was really frustrated by that because, like, man, I just want to play guitar and show off, right, and be like a badass lead guitar player. But no, everybody needed bass players, so I started playing bass, and I was really lucky that the church we went to at the time like hired like really badass professional musicians. Like the dudes that they hired are like dudes that are like anytime they release a record, they're on the top of the iTunes jazz charts now. Like they're really good. So I grew up kind of around those guys, just teaching me, and you know, and I think more important than even learning was just seeing what was possible at a young age. Like seeing a keyboard player sit there and like you know, he would be like, hey, what are you listening to? And I'd let him hear like this Yes song, like Roundabout, I think is what it was I was listening to, and he'd like listen to it for like 30 seconds, and he'd be like, oh, that's cool, and he'd just start playing it like right there, and I was like, oh, that's possible. You can just like listen to a song and then play it like that, you know, and like realizing at an early age like the extreme depth of talent that is possible was like really influential, because like, oh, if he can do that, I can do that, right? But then yeah, I ended up going to school for 3 years to be a jazz studies major, and ended up switching because I was like, I played music professionally for just a little bit, and I hated it, like absolutely hated it. Like,
Really?
oh man, like I love working a desk job. I like working 9 to 5 and then not having to worry about my job when I leave. You know, when you play music professionally, you know, you don't get sick days, you don't get vacation. If yeah, and sometimes, you know, depending on the week, you know, if you get sick, it's like, oh, I better play this gig or I'm not going to be able to pay rent, you know, which some people, they love it. That's what they thrive in. But for me, it's like, it's much more fun as a hobby than as a career. But
That's true.
Well, I probably started playing guitar around 7th grade. There was a dishwasher that worked with my mother and my sisters at a restaurant that they all waitressed at. And he happened to play guitar, but more importantly, he happened to be an amazing musician. His name is Travis Reed. He gave me my first couple lessons, and then I drove down to Austin with my sister, and we watched him play a show, and I was like, wow, like that's what it means to be a rock star. That's amazing. I want to do what he does. So he moved on, you know, but I just kept on, you know, with like Victor making noise in a room, trying to make things sound good. And after a while, I mean, like I was in choir and stuff too. So it's like, I feel like choir helped me because it developed my ears. You know, it's like I learned how to sing sitting next to people who were way better than me, listening, you know, like how they do it. So it's just like ear training. And so that just kind of carried over to guitar. You know, it's just like finding the exact like tonality that you want. And then of course, I mean, like kind of what I was going back over earlier about, you know, who my influences were, it's just local musicians, you know, people that I jammed with. So yeah, that's about it.
Nice.
So this story is a little embarrassing. So I started on violin and hated it in 5th grade, and then I was like, well, I kind of like this music thing. So I did band, And I went in and I was like, I want to play the long slidey one. And my band director was like, you have lips for nothing, so you get to hit stuff. So I was like, okay. So I like did the band thing all the way up until like around my sophomore year of high school is when I started to veer. Because when I first started band, my parents were like, you should do drum set because that's like the cool thing. And I took like 2 drum set lessons. Like, this shit sucks. fuck drum set. And then Rock Band came out.
Thank you.
And I learned, the first song I learned on drum set was Crush, Crush, Crush by Paramore. And because I heard that disco beat, I was like, that is so cool. That's all it is?
Yeah.
And I was playing bass for this band called Eponine, rest in peace. And our drummer was awful. Christian, I love you if you're watching this, but you were awful. And one day he didn't come to practice for some reason. And so I was like, hey, let me just like, I'll fill in on drums. And they were just like, Christian's playing bass now. You're drumming for us.
It's a done deal.
Yeah, and then I just started drumming more and more and more. So I never like got the traditional training for drum set. I got like a few semesters of it in college, but not like the intensive stuff. So
Rock Band, man.
Props for Rock Band
Yeah,
and
man.
Paramore.
Yeah, and Paramore.
And Paramore.
Do you
awesome.
rap?
Huh?
Do you rap?
I do rap.
Was it you? Was it that Tanner? Tanner told me that.
Yeah, no, in addition to SvennyBaby, I'm also the front man for a hip-hop ska band called Flippin' the Combined Effort. So, yeah, I'm also a rapper, and that's just Eminem. I heard Eminem, and I was like, you can do that with your voice? That is so cool. And ever since then, I've tried to learn raps and write and listening to him and Watsky, Mos Def, all those guys, like,
That's awesome.
just the power of, it's silly, but the power of words is just phenomenal and crazy, and just I love it. So
That's really
yeah.
That's great.
That's awesome.
What's the best show you've ever seen? One of the best.
Oh man, can I start this one? Oh man. Okay, so the best show I've ever seen, hands down. So Streetlight Manifesto, they like toured nonstop from like 2002 to 2012, like nonstop. Like that's what they did for a living. And then they announced like, hey, we're calling it quits. And I was so upset. And they said we're doing 3 shows in New Jersey at our favorite venue, and it's gonna be every night we're playing one of our CDs, like top to bottom. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go. And then we had a concert that night with UTA, but I found out like in June, and the concert was in November. So I went to my professor. I was like, hey, I know we have a concert that day, but if I get a sub, can I do it? And without batting an eye, he was like, oh yeah, no, go right ahead. Like that's all, just find a sub. So I flew out to New Jersey, and for 3 nights in a row, they just played their entire discography. They brought in old members. They had, because they're a ska band, so they have like 4 horn players. For one of their songs, they brought out like 12 horn players to play one of the songs, and they all soloed. And like it was just, the crowd was super nice, and I met people that like, I remember seeing these guys 10 years ago at this like divey bar, and now they're doing like, it was just so cool. I got to meet the trumpet player. Like we all went to IHOP afterwards. Like the entire concert just went to IHOP. Like
so crazy.
it was so nuts, and they played everything I want. Like there was not they literally played every song like they have ever written, and it was just incredible.
Like a 3-day farewell festival.
Yeah, it was nuts. It was a Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and like it was hands down my favorite, my most favorite concert. Second only to my first concert ever, which was also them.
Oh shit! Nice.
Like my first like proper concert, because I'm originally from El Paso, which is all the way out west. So no bands ever came to El Paso.
No, dude.
Yeah, they never came. So when I got into them, my parents were like, well, see if they come nearby anywhere. And the closest they came was to Tempe, Arizona. So we drove 6 hours from El Paso to Tempe. And I remember being right behind the sound guy, and my parents were like, you're not allowed to go in the mosh pit. And then they came on, and it was just crazy. They had choreographed dance moves, and like they were just so great. Like they were just as talented then as they were when I saw them like for the last time, and they were just, it was incredible. Like those are the 2 shows that stick out of my head. So thanks, Mom, Dad.
Who was that?
It was Streetlight Manifesto. Thankfully, they called off their hiatus and they're doing stuff again. But still, those three nights were just chef kiss.
That's awesome, man.
Well, I saw a band once and it was good. No, I just feel like no answer I could give could compare to what Felipe just shared with us.
It's pretty epic, man. He went to New Jersey for his show. No.
I saw a
mean-
band was good, music good, me happy.
I'd say the best show I've seen was 21 Pilots.
Oh, nice.
I saw them live, and they were. I mean, it like the production value of the show. It was a show, like
That's
it was
cool.
like theatrical. I mean, it was amazing. But my favorite experience would have to be just Vans Warped Tour as a whole. Just seeing a lot of like I think I saw Sum 41 at that show and Big D in the Kids Table and Motion City Soundtrack, and it's just like all those it's just like the weirdest combination of bands that you wouldn't think. I mean, obviously they're all in similar genres, but still like that was like hands down. And like it started raining like halfway through, and like I have a bunch of people ran to the amphitheater, but then after the rain chilled out, like a lot of us was like, have you guys ever been over there to those fairgrounds where they do Vans Warped Tour?
I don't think so.
I don't know. But anyways,
Is
there's
it?
this huge amphitheater, right? And there's the big hill that's all grassy.
Right.
And we all, like, because it was wet, everyone was sliding down the grass
Holy
hill, like
crap.
running
Oh,
and
that's
sliding down the whole
Oh
hill.
man, that's
So it's just like, I don't know, just the Vans Warped Tour as a whole was just like being out in the sun all day, like going around to different bands, meeting people. I met a lot of cool musicians. Like a lot of them weren't like big names or anything, but like they were kind of doing little stuff. And like I got to hang out in one of the tents and just like just drink water with them. You know, it was
that's
just like
awesome, man.
it was just a really cool experience.
That's cool. Festivals are great, especially when it has everything that people can enjoy, like a nice variety. Yeah.
So in in 2007, I had accepted my fate as a bass player. I'd realized,
Literally, you have to, right?
yeah, I was like, this is my life. No, I fell in love with bass, and I'd gotten like really into Victor Wooten, and he went on
man.
tour, and he came to the Granada here in Dallas in 2007. But that wasn't even like the best part of the show. The best part of the show was the band that opened for them was Snarky Puppy, and I don't know if y'all know who Snarky Puppy is. Yeah, they're like the biggest jazz band in the world now, like really badass fusion stuff. But this was like before they were famous, right? This is when they still lived in Denton and were like UNT students. And they opened, and it was just like, oh my God, this whole new different thing. And it was really cool because it was like, I hadn't heard of them before, and most people hadn't. It was like seeing the birth of like this really badass band that would go on to become this monstrous thing. And then like Victor Wooten was really awesome too. But like all together, like just the treat of seeing that band before they were famous was really, really cool.
That's awesome.
Mine kind of has a little bit of a backstory. So lately, I was kind of mentioning this earlier when we were recording, but I've been taking a lot of lessons from musicians who are just way better than me because I want to get better too. And there was this band called the Hush Sound, and the lead singer posted on Facebook earlier last year. She was like, "Hey, if anybody wants to take lessons with me, let me know. Like, hit me up. I'm down to do that." So I was like, fire coming out of my fingertips. I'm like, "Oh, I want to learn from you," right? So me and her started contacting each other, and she became my songwriting teacher. And so I just started working with her, and she was like also my therapist when it came to music. Because as a musician, you're just always like, I fucking suck, I hate, I should quit. But she was like, no, keep going, right? Well, anyways, her band, the Hush Sound, had split up, and like years ago. And I saw that she posted like, we're gonna be reunited for one night in Chicago, and I'm like, I'm fucking there, right? So I go to Chicago to see her show, and it was incredible. But like usually with opening bands, you're just like, you gotta wait. You know, they're just there to kind of just fill some time. But the bands that I heard like were so fucking good, and they were just like the stuff that we want, like that I want to create with these guys. And then when Hush Sound came on, it was just such a amazing performance because you can easily play too much. right? And bands that find that right level of balance where it's not like, oversaturated with parts or like too mushy, like where everything just locks in, right? And like listening to them, I was just like, oh, this is the shit, right? This is what I want to strive for. And like that was one of the like coolest shows I've seen in a long time, if not the best.
That's awesome. And that was, you said, in Chicago?
Yeah, that was in Chicago.
Wow, very cool.
And then since I knew the songwriting teacher, she was like, come hang out with me after the show. And I was like, I'm tired. And she was like, well, I'll see you tomorrow at my songwriting like class. And I was like, yeah. And then it snowed fucking hard. So I was like, well, sorry.
Chicago.
Yeah. And then I got stuck in Chicago for an extra day. And then I went on a little States tour because we'd missed the plane. And that was a fucking mess. But it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
Another side story to a side story.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, yeah. Well,
The favorite, Jonathan.
Favorite venue.
Oh.
Favorite person. Favorite venue you've played. Like, well, anywhere. Shit.
God dang, that's a hard question. We played a lot of shows. We're very lucky to have
A lot
done
of really
that.
cool places too.
Yeah.
We'll keep rubbing it in, man.
We've also played a ton of shitty shows. So I mean, it's a balance.
We'll get to that question.
Oh, man,
gosh.
nice.
oh yeah, don't worry.
What is the single coolest place we've played? Like,
Man,
there's so many neat
Like
places.
best crowd. maybe
Best
like
crowd.
Oh,
Last night was
man,
pretty
last
amazing.
night.
last night was
Really?
fucking awesome.
Where at?
Truth Vinyl in Arlington.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the new record shop.
Yeah, the new record shop.
Okay.
There
Where
was
is
a
that located?
it's
Right
It's on
next to
Abrams.
Twisted Root.
Next to Twisted
Oh,
Root and
yeah.
Fuzzies and
By Gilligan's.
Yeah.
Used to be.
yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, right next to Free Play as well. Like
Yeah.
that place was so like there were so many people in there. Like I found like there were pictures of people that were outside of the venue because they couldn't go inside, like taking pictures of us and watching us.
That's awesome.
And it was wild. I felt like a rock star for a little bit, and people were super nice. And we also played this really killer show at Abbey Underground for Halloween. We dressed up as characters from Bob's Burgers.
Oh, nice.
I was Tina. Jonathan was
That was Louise.
Louise,
I was Gene.
and Felipe was Bob. We just missed the mom.
And I played the drum set with spatulas.
He really did.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how not bad
I
it
was committed to the bit.
Man,
That's awesome.
that is
But
commitment.
that was a fun show because this band, we were opening for this band called Star Party, who were like just really like a really cool fun band. And like there were a lot of people there to see them, which was cool. And we get up on stage and somebody screams "Star Party," and we're like, "Oh, we're not Star Party."
Yeah.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Hey, well,
But,
when we were close to the end, people were like, "You rock, Star Party! You're amazing!" And I'm like, "No, we're not Star Party, but they're pretty dope." Yeah, yeah.
It's
But
like,
that was a
it's like
killer
you're lucky
show.
though, because if you liked us, you got like more like us coming up
Yeah.
next with Star Party. So
You know
like that Star Party. Wait till you hear
Star Party. Does this mean we stay on stage?
Yeah. Where else? So there's this place that's in my heart, and the Broken Disco song is about this place called The Cellar in Fort Worth, and that place has a very special place like in my heart because like it was one of the first places to like let us play at a venue. Like it was where we played like one of our first shows, like real shows.
that's where I first saw them play.
Same.
And it's a really cool venue, or was a really cool venue.
That was a
'cause
cool parking
it's,
lot.
It's, yeah, now it's a real nice parking lot for TCU faculty. But yeah, it was just like a really like crappy hole in the wall place. Like the bar was downstairs, and you would go up these like twisting like medieval stairs to get to like the top floor.
The crappiest of holes.
That had like this tiny little stage, and then like just like dirty ass like standing room. But it was such a nice feeling, and like people would like walk over from TCU, and there were always like nice crowds. And then they just tore it down and put up a parking lot. And
Yeah, and people are always like acting really cool there. So that's like why I talk about it. Like we're all acting like we're really cool, but we're all like immature, dumb, and stupid. You know.
That's back when you guys had 2 saxophone players.
Yeah,
and
we used to have
and
2 sax
Saxophone
players.
Nice.
And I remember
like a baritone alto.
No, it was 2
No,
altos.
2 altos. Oh man, Wow.
They also used to pass out egg shakers for the audience and get the audience to shake the eggs along with songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a really
it was
interesting
cool.
phase, those
It
early
was.
days of the band before the rest of us
And
were
we used to have
part of it.
we used to have the sax player play in the audience too.
Oh shit, that's cool.
So like we did a battle of the bands, and that's when we did that. We were playing a song, and we had like towards the end the bridge was like the sax player started playing. He got up on some shit, and the other one got up on some of the furniture. And I remember being so fucking dumb afterwards. I was like, "Look, check it out. That's completely spontaneous. We didn't plan that at all."
Just spazzing out on the audience. Yeah. Oh my god.
I was so dumb, and I'm
Two
still am
What's
dumb.
your here it is, our favorite. What's your most embarrassing mistakes on stage? Live mistakes.
That's a great question.
There's so many.
There's so many
I mean,
mistakes.
you mentioned playing with spatulas.
Oh, that was not a mistake.
That
was not a
That was a
mistake at all.
golden moment in my career.
Man.
Highlights.
Oh man. Okay, this is like one of the worst gigs we've ever played, and like it was just so depressing. So there's a place called it's the City Tavern in Dallas, and
Shit. That's the best look right there.
Yeah.
I forgot about that gig.
it's always in my heart.
could
I
you?
hated that place.
Oh, no.
So man, I like this place a lot, right? But right across the street there was a cooler like bar with like just better stuff, and like cooler people were there. So this place was just kind of like on its last legs, right? And on the steps, as you're walking up to the second floor, there's the names of all these great bands who've played there,
Oh, cool.
right? So it's really, really neat. And I'm just like thinking to myself, man, wouldn't it be cool if someday, like, our name was on like one of these steps, right? And so there's a few people there for the band that's playing, and then we go on next, and people just leave, right? Like we play one song, and then they're like gone, right? And so we're just like, it's just us and the sound guy, and the sound guy is like dicking around on his phone. And then our friend Bethany like shows up, and she's the only one. And it was like, it was one of the most embarrassing like moments. Yeah. Yeah.
And then?
Hey, man.
And then?
And then halfway through one of the songs, his keyboard stand breaks,
Yeah.
and it falls to the
Oh,
floor.
Right.
I had blocked all this out.
I thought that's what that was
Yeah,
leading
so I
up
had
to.
to- I was crouching down playing. It was the fucking stupidest thing. Yeah, I used to have like keyboard stand. I'm sure Dustin remembers this. Like
these solos.
You got this, man.
Oh, it hurt. It hurt my soul.
We all have them, right?
Yeah. Oh, also with flipping the combined effort, there's this really easy riff that I play sometimes, and I just brain farted. Like,
That happens, man.
yeah, and it's just like, and it's like one of those moments where he's like, and presenting Danny Johnson on guitar, and I was like, ba ba da ba 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 da ba. And the first time it was funny because I ended up going bah, 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 like real chromatic to make it like a joke. And then I'm like, haha, I got it this time.
Yeah.
Still didn't have it. Halfway through the song, I got over my brain fart and I played it right for the rest of the night. But yeah, my worst fuck ups are with the easiest things I play.
Right? You don't
It
have to
always
like.
is.
Yeah.
You
don't
take
have
it
to,
for
like,
granted. You're like, I got this part. Wait, what?
Right.
What?
That's true.
So there have been dozens of fuck ups. Like break. I used to be a really shitty drummer, so I'd break heads all the time. So I didn't play good. In and out, but I was so focused on the hi-hat. So like I get really no joke, like scared because I'd be playing and then all of a sudden I just hear doom for one hit and it like blasts through the monitor. I was like, what's going on? And it was just
Jeez, man.
yeah,
Yeah, that gig was just
that was just
rough
it was
on,
garbage.
like everybody's part. It was like it haunted me, right? Because the same thing, like because I had just lost my voice, and so I was just getting it back, and so I was like, I gotta overcompensate. I gotta play like put a bunch of energy out there, and so I was like ahead on times a bunch, and then we were just like everybody was just off. It was weird. It was a
Stuff
weird night.
happens, man.
Is
Yeah.
there-
It's the
sorry.
beauty of life.
No, I wanted to ask you,
Mhm.
who did y'all's faces for your bass drum head?
Oh
It
yeah.
was Pedro Razzo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was like our first real big fan.
Yeah.
And he what?
Yeah.
What y'all
No.
said- oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We're all
Y'all said
agreeing
I was
with
like,
you.
did he die or
Yeah.
something? Like the way y'all
Yeah.
said
He
that.
is our number one
Yeah,
fan.
he's like, our first real big fan. Like he has recordings of songs that we don't have recordings of, and I'm
Wow.
like, where did you get these?
Yeah, he went on
Like,
the internet and found songs that me and Dustin had done a long time ago.
Like, yeah, and he's a really talented artist, so he did that and some various other arts for that's on some of our records and
Yeah.
stuff.
Our logo is a Pedro Razzo original.
Yeah, if you ever see the black and red SvennyBaby shirt, we were doing a photo shoot for our album cover for our first record, and we wanted like it was called Painting Pictures, and we wanted to have like SvennyBaby written on a canvas. So we decided the spur of the moment, like really good planners that we are. So he like made a makeshift paintbrush out of paper towels and a stick, and he like painted it just right there, and we've loved it, and that's always been our lettering.
It's beautiful.
That's awesome.
That's cool to have a like true fan do your
Yeah.
artwork. And do
Yeah, I think
Oh,
that makes
yeah.
it special. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
super
sweet
special.
guy.
What about that video that y'all have? It's like the multicolored video, and then y'all have like.
How many
paint.
do y'all have?
Oh, we
Yeah.
have two music videos.
Dude,
One of them is
yeah.
called Impressions, and then one's called Dancing with Another. And I
Right,
think
Yeah.
Roderick did both those. Yeah.
yeah, Roderick did both of those.
Roderick Pena. He's a videographer over in Dallas. He does it professionally. He works a lot with what's that organization with the animals?
Oh my gosh.
He works with an animal.
That's how we met him, I think. Oh no, we met him through when we played in the cover band. He was friends with the front man for the cover band because they went to high school together. So he came out and did some shots for us, and then that's how we got to know him, and we collaborated with him on a lot of the stuff we did.
That's
yeah,
awesome, man.
it's been fun. It's been a lot
Nice
of fun.
videos.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seriously,
Thank
very
you.
good quality.
Creative process. How do you guys
Yes.
write? How does it all come together?
So usually what happens is I sit down and I cry for an hour.
Yes.
And
Off to a good
then
start.
I think it's time to get started. But seriously, what happens is I
Cry for an hour.
I play. I think you need to play. You need to just improvise and not set any boundaries for yourself. Just think, like, I sit down, I'm like, I can do anything. Like, behind this keyboard, I'm the master. And so, like, I play and I just listen. And then I'll just hear things and I'll just feel things. And Paul McCartney put it best. You have to just put out your little antenna and just be listening. So, like, in the creative process, I always try to have that antenna out, and I'm always thinking about ideas and things that I want to do. And so there's always a ton of ideas that I'm getting, and so my problem is not writing them down. So then I'll get this little idea that I like, and I'll go to work on my keyboard, and I'm just like, I kind of want something like this, and then I build the whole song, and I write all the lyrics, and then I think, man, this is shit. So I throw that away, and I start over, and that's the creative process for me, just like being okay with throwing away things that you've spent hours and hours on, because
It's tough. Man.
yes, it's awful.
It's tough to do.
It's one of the
But yeah.
fucking worst things as a creative like person, but you also have to be okay with that, like
Yeah.
letting go of that. So then I do it again and I do it again, and so I have like a ton of ideas, but then when I feel that there's something good and there's like a possibility, a little seed that can work, then I'll show it to the guys. And these are like my harshest critics, because they'll tell me when things suck.
Got to.
And yeah, and that's why I love playing with them. They're real.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've shot down a few of my songs, and I'm so grateful for that, because that's the process that you need to go through, you know,
That's the
because like what's going to happen if they shot it down? I'm going to write another song. And if I keep writing and writing, they're going to get better and better.
You
and
keep
so
creating.
right. So once like that process is done, then they take it and they'll sometimes want direction, but I let them decide what they want.
Yeah, Victor writes most of the songs, but every once in a while, Duddy or I will bring in a song. So like we like kind of go away and half write a song, like get the lyrics and chords at least right, and like the melodies, and then bring it back, and it's like, okay, let's make this sound like a Svenny song. And I think the really fun thing is nobody really. It's not like we all just like write our own parts and like make our own thing. It's like we really collaborate together around it. Like one of my favorite bass parts that I play in this song we play called "Up to You," Victor wrote. He was like, "Hey, I know you like playing your own stuff, but I have this part I wrote for the bridge that I want you to play." And it's like a really cool part that I wouldn't have thought of on myself, and the way it works like real harmonically. Like he's got me playing like this E Mixolydian thing while the guitar and the bass are playing like an E flat major and a D major chord. Yeah, and it's really weird, and I wouldn't have thought to have done it, but it's really cool. But yeah, like sometimes Duddy will be like, "Hey, Felipe, can you play this drum beat?" Or I'll be like, "Hey, Duddy, here's the guitar part I think would sound cool here." Like everybody kind of writes like all around the song, you know, instead of just staying on their instrument and bringing just what their specialty is to it, you know. If people hear like a good idea in their head, that, you know, we sit down and we're like, okay, can we try this out with this maybe or with that, or, you know, I want you to hear, like, give me that instrument, play this very specific part, you know.
That's awesome, man. Which one?
There's flashes right now.
Thank you.
What do you
Thank you,
think?
Sam. Well, no, I think Jonathan hit it like right on the head. That's how we operate. I mean, like with the last song that I wrote, we did just that, right? I wrote a very bare song. Like I didn't try to add melodies to it. It was just like I kept very simple chords, and like I basically like I had it in mind going into it. I'm going to create a very like firm skeleton and just let them add everything else, right? And even then, like once we start adding parts, it's like the verses, like I don't play any guitar, like so it's just like we analyze the songs together. We decide, hey, you know, you don't need every like instrument on every part of a song.
It's true.
So it's just like It's like on that one song that I wrote, like I play very little guitar, and it's like I don't play any lead parts. It's just like very like simple like chord parts. So it's just kind of like I'd imagine like before, I had a lot more things in mind. Like some of the songs that like we used to do a long time ago, like I've been like when me and Victor started this project together, I was writing a lot of music back then, a lot of like singer-songwriter stuff. So songs like Hook and Karma Bolt that went really well, just like what?
And Sneaking Out. Sorry, there's a song that he wrote called Sneaking Out, and it's one of my favorite ones because it's so
Don't
like
remind me.
pure. It's about just sneaking out from your parents, like
Right,
That's
to
it.
go meet a girl.
to go meet a girl.
Right. Yeah. It's actually funny you say that because like people like our old fans like, why don't you like ever play this song anymore? It's like I have no idea what you're talking about. First of all, that's why we don't play that. Tristan Wheat's favorite song of mine is Shadow of Nowhere. And I'm like,
I've never even heard of that song.
yeah,
before.
yeah. And I'm just like,
Shadow of
nowhere, thinking about you.
Yeah.
And there's another song I wrote called Break Out the Stitches. And Amber, my sister, has a recording of it somewhere. So it's just, I don't know. It's like I've evolved a lot. So it's like my old writing process was very singer-songwriter, acoustic, coffee shop, because that's how I learned how to be a musician, was in a coffee shop. So, like, now with this, like, I guess, like, SvennyBaby Prime, like, the ultimate version of SvennyBaby, it's like I take songwriting a very different approach than I had in the past, and I just try to, for me, like, I craft the words more closely than anything. Unlike these guys, I don't have much of a musical background in the sense of education. I learned how to play music by playing with musicians that are better than me. Everyone I'm sitting with had training. So it's like I don't try to think of like a really clever chord progression. I try to think of really like clever words. It's like Felipe said earlier that he's a really big fan of hip hop, and I'm also a huge fan of hip hop. I would never try to write for hip hop, but I love rap. I love George Watsky, Atmosphere, Mac Lethal. Those guys are really talented guys. So I try to focus more on words than actual music theory and how things should fit together. In fact, Victor, I think it was you that told me that my song Hook doesn't make any sense from a music theory perspective.
Do you want to know why?
Like,
I'll tell you why.
Please do.
I love this. I love theory.
I
and
wouldn't
shit
get
like
it,
that.
but
Dude, you have to teach me theory.
Yeah. Oh.
It's the
Yeah.
best.
It's just the language of music. It just helps.
It's learning a
right.
whole
So
nother
good.
beast, man. I got into music theory class, but
Yeah, it's
You know,
hard. It is
man.
hard,
It really is.
and because it's you're learning a different language. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I learned music theory because it just helps just makes it faster, makes the process faster. I'm
See,
sorry.
Like transposing instrument to instrument. That's
Mhm.
like
It's a bitch.
See, I love systems. Just the idea of systems, like I play like Minecraft a bunch because it's just a series of systems, and that's how I view music theory. It's just a series of systems to reach a goal. And it's funny because it's really hard at first, and then you get this nice little like, oh, I have a grasp on this, and then like you see a video of like Jacob Collier talking about negative harmony, and like it gets crazy and it gets really difficult really fast.
Negative
harmony. If you ever get a chance, Jacob Collier is amazing. Please check his music out because he'll just blow your mind. Like you think you're good, but you're not Jacob
And then
Collier.
like you find out he's 12.
Whoa.
He's 12.
It's like, I'm Jacob, and I'm gonna teach you negative harmony.
But and then he sits right across Herbie Hancock, and he's just like they're just talking about music. And at that point, I was just like, what is going on?
There's this video he did that's really good where 'cause he's definitely like has an incredibly amazing grasp of harmony. Like if you ever watch, he does like a cappella videos on YouTube, but it's not like what you're used to hearing as a
not
cappella. It's like
pentatonics.
really dense, like 12-part like harmonies where he's doing like negative harmony, which is this really crazy concept. But so he did this video where for the BBC where he sits down and explains music theory to a child, to a teenager, to a
Adult.
college
College
musician,
student.
to an adult professional musician, and then to Herbie Hancock. And like, yeah, I was following it, and I was good all the way up until they get to Herbie Hancock, and I was like, oh, this is some cool stuff. I'm following it, and then like they get like 2 minutes in, and I'm like, what are they talking
Right,
about?
right.
What is going on now?
Yeah.
On another level.
Yeah, when you have that much, when you have that much experience with it, like Herbie's been playing for like 60 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just there's no like limit, right? Like when it comes to music, like there's not just like you get to a certain level and like, oh, you're here, that's cool. No, it's like
Keeps going.
Welcome
you've
to
been-
music.
If you've been if you've been playing for 60 years, like gigging like regularly, like a dude like that, and really prolific pianist, like you have such an understanding of it that like only like a handful of people in the world can really relate to, and it's really interesting in that way.
It's amazing.
It is indeed.
But back to like
The creative process.
The creative process. I think the key we learned is I think the key we learned is to only half finish songs before we bring them in, because if we bring in a finished song, it sounds too much like us the individual and not like the band. Like sometimes Victor in the past would bring in a song and it's like it's like completely done song, and it sounds like a Ben Folds song. It's like real heavy, like plotting piano, and we're like, man, there's no room for us to do stuff like that, or and so that's why now like the last song that I brought in for the band, I was like, yeah, I want this to kind of be like this kind of dancey, poppy kind of number. And we listened to it and we played it, and Felipe's like, no, you know what this needs? This needs to be like a Florence and the Machine ballad. Like out of nowhere, he just pulls this thing, and but the fact that I didn't have like a complete idea of this song in my head made it really easy to transfer and to be like, okay, let's slow it down and change the time signature and try all this kind of stuff. And the end product was way better than even what I had in my head when I was trying to write the song. I think it's the matter of working with a group.
Yes.
That's Megan's favorite song out of the album, like all the stuff that we're recording right now. I let her listen to everything, and that's her favorite one.
That means a lot. It's called Untangled. Yeah, it's a song. It's a really angsty song I wrote about how angry I am at my dad. So I don't think it's an embarrassing song, but I can't help but be embarrassed every time I hear it. I'm like, oh, this is way too personal. It's like,
Yeah.
I liked what you said about sitting down at your instrument when you're writing and just being like, I can do anything. I'm the master. That mindset really does. I tell Caleb sometimes, I'm just not playing it confidently enough. You need to play it with confidence. And that translates into creativity. It
Right.
really does. If you feel
Right.
confident in yourself, you're going to know.
Yeah.
Like you can do
You create so many limitations within your own self,
something. Exactly.
and I think learning not to do that is very difficult, because you think you know what music is, and you have these expectations of what music should be, but you go like to one continent to another, music's different. Music's always different.
So different.
And
Yeah.
when you're trying to be creative, you're not going to be creative by putting all these restraints on yourself. And being okay with fucking up is one of the most free things, especially when you're just writing and doodling. Nobody's going to get mad at you.
Yeah, you're not performing for anyone.
Sometimes I sit down and I just play atonal things where it's just like doesn't have a key, doesn't have anything. I just it sounds like shit, but I don't care. I can do it because I want to.
yeah. Lately, I've been trying to write more, like for Svenny and then like for myself, and I have a reminder on my phone like every day at 3:00 to like sit down and just write lyrics. And sometimes I'm sitting down and I'm writing stuff and I'm like, man, this is shit, or man, I hate it. But it's like, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna finish it out anyway. Like write like a complete set of lyrics, because if I do that at least like 4 or 5 days out of the week, in like 2 months, I'm gonna have so much stuff that I like that I don't care that I'm tossing out, like those 20 ones that I thought were shit while I was writing them. It's like you just got to get that practice in.
Put in the work.
Yeah.
If you don't try, you never know.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing. It's just trying. Just
And
literally, just do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Just pick up your instrument. Who cares if you're going to write or not? Just pick it up.
No, that's
you
true,
know,
'cause
just you never know what might happen. And always have it recording. Always.
Somehow.
Because honestly, I was so like kind of afraid of songwriting for a long time, because every time I tried it, like when I was a teenager or a little younger, I would write stuff and just like not like it at all, and that discouraged me from doing it. And then I finally realized, like, okay, well, I can write like 20 really shitty songs and no one has to ever hear them. And if I get one good one out of that, or have like a couple of ideas that I pull out of them that, into a song that I like, then it's worth it, right?
That's right.
It's better than not writing any songs.
Yeah, and then
Like-
picking and pulling, it's That's why you always gotta stay up on it,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
You can always pick from songs and pull parts.
You
And
can
Mhm.
jam all day, but you gotta write something. You gotta put something together.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're writing a new album. You said you have like what's the
Yes.
plans
It's an album. It's a concept album.
there?
It's about what it's like when a dog finds another dog. They
That-
start
Um,
sniffing each other.
Serious, bro.
Beautiful.
That I am interested in this.
But for real though, I don't know. We've all kind of gotten old. Like we're getting close to 30. Like I don't want to
close
out.
to retirement.
I don't
yeah.
want to out anybody's age, or tell who's the
That's
oldest.
because you're the
But
oldest.
we're all we're all kind of
on
getting
it
close
right
to
now.
30, right?
Wow.
And it's kind of weird when you settle down.
Oh shit.
Well, 3 of us are close to 30.
It's kind of weird, like when you settle down a little bit, you kind of go through a different kind of personal growth where like
Yeah.
the world just becomes like a much bigger place, and you realize like how much there is that you have to learn as a person. Because like when you're younger, you're like really cocky and you think you know everything, and you finally when you get a little older, you start realizing like, oh shit, I'm
You
an
don't know
idiot.
nothing.
I don't know anything. So like we kind of wrote this current record all around kind of that kind of stuff, like the weird kind of self-improvement you go through when you're in your 20s. And I know that's like the most riveting concept, but like me, like last year I got into therapy and started learning all this shit about myself and was like you know, like, oh man, like I'm actually learning how to be a real person. This is weird. Like I'm learning like how to have good habits and like be, you know, like take care of myself and how to be happy. And Victor and everybody else and Felipe and Daddy we all have gone through similar kind of personal growth together. So this record is all about that kind of introspection, like who do you want to be, like really thinking about yourself and turning that lens inward, you know. So it's a little more personal, I guess, than some of our other stuff, which was like space operas and concept stuff based on Stephen King novels, you know.
Yeah,
Like this is a lot more
right.
like a personal record that we're doing.
Yeah, it's a fun little challenge, because I think in your 20s you need to discover who you are. You need to spend that time to discover who you are. So like the next time, like so you know what's gonna come up next.
Yeah.
And if you're like, 'cause this is the time where you're like you have to be responsible and know your shit. You need to know like who you are before you start trying to get in relationships or like trying to do whatever it is you're gonna do. And so like one of the first song we open up is it's called "It's Up to You," and it's how like you have the choice to be like a hero or a villain. You could be somebody who like shares love or somebody who shares hate. And it was very inspired by like our wonderful president. Like that man made a choice at one point to be that kind of guy, you know.
Somewhere down the line.
Yeah. And so he was kind of the inspiration for it. I'm like,
I didn't know
This
that.
is great.
Is that true? Are you
Yeah.
okay?
yeah. I tell them
He
I
made
tell them like what I write about, and they're just like playing on their phone or just
That
like
is not
dicking
true.
around.
For those of you in the future people watching this podcast right now, we're talking about Donald Trump. He's the president right now. Now you know.
The man
Yeah.
with little hands. Yeah.
Dustin, you just remind me. Hey, future Felipe. High five.
He does this.
Cool.
So we record all of our practices so we can watch them back. And he does this. He'll be like, "Hey, future Felipe, this is the real one that we're watching." And the high five, and then we'll sit back and watch it, and he'll high five like his past self. And it never gets old. Like he never.
awesome.
I mean, it gets old to us, but it never gets
To be
old.
fair,
to
he
him.
just started it. He started it like 2
and it's
days
already
ago.
old. It's already old.
Yes.
Oh man.
That's awesome.
What's the plan? Do you know when you're gonna release the album? Do you have a
Nope.
No.
Well, we're recording the last of it next weekend.
Where?
We're going to Black Room Studios in Georgetown, Texas. There's a guy we work with named Luke Garrigus who he did some of our really close friends have this band out of Tyler called Metrograde. They kind of sound like if Maroon 5 kept their original edge and like kind of mixed with Fall Out Boy a little bit, like that punk edge. And they recorded a demo with him a while back, and we were like, holy shit, this sounds really good. And at the time, and this was like 3 years ago, it was before I was in the band, but they kind of shopped around to a couple different people in DFW, and it was like, I'm not quite getting the sound we want. And then we went to Luke, and the really great thing about him is, one, he's like just a really badass guitar player, and two, he's got an amazing ear. Like he'll be sitting there playing a part, and he'll be like, "Hey man, he was playing the 5 chord there. and you were playing the 4 chord. You're doing that on purpose?" And it's like, "Oh no." It's like, "Yeah, you might want to fix that." So he'll like, because I don't know, I've recorded with dudes who like, I'll play a part and we'll play it back and I'll be like, in my head I'm like, "Oh man, I played like shit there," and he's like, "Sounds great, let's move on," you know. But Luke will sit there and he'll be like, "Let's try that again," and you'll play it and he'll like, "Let's do that one more time," and then you'll do it and he's like, let's get another one of those,"
Yeah,
you know.
it's that look. He'll just like you record a part, you'll hit the space bar, and he just look back at you like,
Yeah, he'll just
like you
Or
ready?
sometimes
you
he'll
know you fucked up.
Yeah.
You ready to play it again?
he'll just smirk at you. But he but I don't know. We've worked with him the past 2 records and now on this one, which is our 3rd one, and he's really hardcore about making sure you're playing up to your potential, and I appreciate that he pushes us, you know. He's also younger than all of us, which is just
Oh
infuriating.
my gosh, and it's
Yeah,
just
just
so annoying.
he's just like
so
he's just
fucking
like a
talented.
better person than all of us combined in every single way, and he's like 24 years old. Like,
Yeah.
Is he younger than me too?
Yeah, he's younger than
Yes,
you.
He's
He's
younger
younger
than
than you,
you,
dude.
Into that idea.
yeah, don't you feel bad now? Yeah,
he's
that's how I
12.
felt.
You're turning 30.
He's
so
12.
He's just like Jacob
Not
Collier.
30.
He's 12.
What
He's
about
12.
your next shows, the closest
Uh,
upcoming shows?
Well, I should know this.
I think
know
our
we're
next one
playing,
is until April.
No, I think we have something sooner. March 16th,
Okay.
I think.
Oh
Yeah.
man, this is awkwardly looking at,
Wait,
at
maybe not.
calendars.
That's pretty much what everyone does.
Yeah, we've
when
got
we
we've got one
Oh,
on March
yeah,
16th.
16th in Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where is that, Victor? Where in Fort Worth is that?
Yeah.
Do you know where Fort Worth is?
It's
It's somewhere in there.
Fort Worth.
What venue?
It's TBA. There you go.
Is that a new one?
Yeah, follow
Is,
Instagram.
is it
Facebook.
Yeah,
is it
follow us
replacing
on-
the Aardvark? Oh, rest in
No,
peace.
it's somewhere. It's a different venue. I'm sort of excited about it.
And then we've got a big one coming up at Division Brewing
Mhm.
on April 13th. We love playing out
I
there.
was like,
'cause-
also shout out to
Never been
Division Brewery. If you at all like alcohol,
Yeah, those people.
go
take care
see
of us.
them. They are good people.
yeah.
Great brews.
And we just love playing in Arlington 'cause like that's our city. Like
Yeah.
we all live in Arlington. We all went to UTA. And we know people here. Like we have a pool. Like it's awesome 'cause then we go play in like Dallas or Fort Worth and like nobody comes out, you know. But we play in Arlington and there's like it's like home. It's you get home and there's a nice loving blanket of friends you pull up over yourself that's nice and cuddly, and it's just so much easier to play when there's like an enthusiastic audience to when you're playing to a bunch of just like other bands who are sitting there with their arms crossed
judging you
Just
and
waiting.
yeah.
I can play better.
Yeah.
You,
I wouldn't play that part, but yeah, you can play it.
Yeah.
Well, man, this was great. Thank you
Yeah.
guys for coming out.
Thank
The
you.
songs
Yeah.
came out great.
SvennyBaby,
you.
social media,
SvennyBaby,
Yeah.
Facebook. You guys have
Facebook,
a
Instagram.
website?
iTunes.
iTunes. We're on
Mhm.
Spotify.
Yeah.
Spotify.
We're very lucky in that if you Google SvennyBaby, it's literally the only thing that
Yeah,
comes up as us. So
unique.
yeah,
It's unique.
we're
Yeah.
we're on everything, and we'll have a new record out before the end of the year.
Yeah.
We don't have an
Very
official
exciting.
release date, but we're
Right.
very excited
And
about
that show's
it.
gonna be amazing. The ideas I have for that.
It's gonna be dope.
Stay tuned.
Ooh, stay
Mhm.
tuned.
TBA.
That's
TBA.
right.
To-
Well, thank you, SvennyBaby.
Thank you
Thank you
guys.
guys.
Thank you.
Good
Next
night.
time.
Woo!
Yes.
Yeah.